Good afternoon, everybody. I think, as the anchor said, this time slot is the most difficult part post-lunch. And I think in my last Business World event also, I was given a session post-lunch, which is why I tend to miss out on the desserts as well. So yeah, coming back to the topic. Hi Hitesh. Coming back to the topic, which is financing skills and partnerships for MSMEs. We will obviously touch upon, we have eminent panelists who are lenders, who are investors, who have worked in the MSME space for quite some time. So if you see that, as per the recent IMF data, India will reach the $5 trillion economy by 2028-29. And MSMEs being the backbone and which continue to be the backbone, there's still, MSMEs, we see that there's still difficulty or challenge in availing a loan, right? While yes, we have the Indian government working on various initiatives, we have large lenders, investors working on various initiatives, like, from the RBI side, we have the ULI, right, which RBI launched, Unified Lending Interface, where, it is not just financial service data, but non-financial service data also flowing in, which kinds of gets aggregated at a lender level for better credit underwriting. We have the Udyam portal as well. We have a lot of lenders, like Aditya Birla had launched a Udyog portal for MSMEs. Hitesh from ICICI is here. We have InstaBiz app for MSMEs. In IDFC Bank, IndusInd, all of them have launched several banking interfaces or platforms for MSMEs as well. In terms of MSME contribution, right? We see that they have contributed around 30% to the GDP, around 45% to the exports happening, and they employ around 210 million people. But still, we see that there is a lot to come, lot to happen, and we are touching upon three pillars, right? Financing, skills, and partnerships. So in terms of financing, right, we just spoke about the credit gap. What MSMEs, what I believe, and of course we will delve into the topic more, is that we require smart credit, flexible credit, investor friendly solutions as well. In terms of skills, again, money without capabilities is like stagnation for growth, right? So we need to upgrade probably the digital maturity of such MSMEs. We need to have a future ready workforce. In terms of partnerships, again, there are various fintechs, various ecosystem enablers as well, who can kind of collaborate together and help this segment, and which is again happening, right? We spoke about a lot of these super apps who kind of bring all together these various service providers, not just banks giving loans, but we see that accounting softwares like Tally and other ERP solutions, which typically MSMEs need, which are embedded into such apps. So yes, I'll come to my panelists now. The first question is for Suprateek, for you. So you've played a pivotal role in building the bank's startup banking initiatives, including equity debt, funding and ecosystem partnerships. How do you think can MSMEs leverage such structured support systems to scale efficiently?
Thanks. So basically, see, whenever we talk about MSMEs or the startups or the new age companies, the foremost, they are currently facing two problems. One is, how do I grow my business? And second is, how do I reduce my cost? If these questions are answered, I believe they will be preparing themselves for the next level. So going to the first question, how do I grow my business? Of course, the foremost and easiest answer is, if there's more capital available, they'll be able to grow. Now, capital can be either equity or debt. What we do in IDFC is, we've partnered with various venture capitalists. We've gotten them on board. When I say we've gotten them on board, it's not that we just know them and we're referring you. We've signed MOUs with them, wherein we would basically pitch for you to them. The moment you do that, of course, right now in the day and age of LinkedIn's and all, everybody can reach. But mind you, the most important thing is saving the time of the founder. So what we do is we link you, we would introduce you, we would make those introductions, take you to the VCs and pitch your product. Obviously, then we take a step back, the discussions between both of you. If it goes ahead, great, you receive funding. Second, going by the second thing, if I talk about debt, we are okay to lend. The banking system now has evolved and we are okay to lend to companies that are not profitable. Earlier, back in the day, that was not the case. We are okay to lend to companies without having a hard collateral. So things have evolved. We have fixed programs. If you meet A, B, C, D, E criteria, we will write you that check. So like I said, we would help you raise money through VCs. We will also give you debt. That's something that we do. Second, again, when I talk about growth, we are talking about networking, events like these. What we understood was founders used to struggle to get introduced around. So we started having events all throughout the year. One big example would be the Startup Mahakumbh that happened. We had 20 companies, we gave them free stalls at Mahakumbh so that we can showcase their products. We had companies coming in, flying in from Guwahati, a drone manufacturing company from Guwahati who came down to Delhi at Startup Mahakumbh to show their products. So such events also help, increase their reach, increase their networking. That's something, again, which we do. Third, this is, again, very different. What we do is we do ecosystem tie-ups. When I say ecosystem tie-ups, that means, for example, you are a packaging material manufacturer. Can I introduce you to Zomato, wherein all their packaging materials can be sourced? What happens here is Zomato will be saving on costs because obviously suddenly, they would be people would be reaching out to them. This MSME or a startup would be introduced to a large customer like Zomato who will help him increase his sales. Again, very differently done. Typical banks do not do this. We have a different approach, so we came. Again, another example would be, suppose we have a platform called Beyond Banking. This platform wherein you can showcase your products to entire ecosystem of IDFC. So you are selling a D2C product. Why don't you come on my platform? The moment you come onto my platform, you will be able, an emailer would go to the entire customer base of IDFC, whereby we are telling them we've tied up with such and such company, why don't you use their products, and so on, thereby directly impacting your sales. So this is something which we believe would make, help us, an MSME or a startup grow his business. Coming to my second problem statement, which was, how does one reduce their costs? We at IDFC believe we've came up with a plan wherein we identified 21 different places where typically banks would charge you. We said, remove them, make it zero. It's not about the 5 rupee, 6 rupee IMPS charges that you're paying. It's not that important, agreed. But it's very irritating to look at a bank statement and see some debits happening wherein you don't know why this debit is happening. Next reaction is, let me call my relationship manager. You will waste hours and hours to understand why it was charged and to get it reversed. Like I said earlier, the most important thing for a founder is to save his own time. He should not be wasting time in looking at bank statements. Why has this been debited? Why has that happened? He should be focusing on his own business. How do I grow it? How do I reach more sales? So we've said, we'll give you an account which is zero. When I say zero, any charges is zero, period. You don't need to maintain balance, no problem. You will not be charged for IMPS, okay. You will not be charged for FCGPRS filing, okay. we're okay. Let there be no charges. Second, the platform that I mentioned, Beyond Banking, we have tied up with various companies, HR portals, say tours and travel companies, then legal service providers, CA services. If you use any of their services, you would get a discount on it. You were mentioning about Tally. We said, why not bring Tally onto this platform? We're giving Tally completely free, no charges at all. As an MSME, every penny saved is a penny earned. So we said, you know, we will help you do this. We are giving Amazon free credits. Some things which would help the MSME grow. The whole idea behind that, creating this portal was this. So the idea is to save everything. Again, lastly, the whole idea of doing this is to strengthen this ecosystem. Rightly mentioned, we would be reaching a $5 trillion economy. MSMEs are going to be the majority play here. If this segment grows, becomes a large crop, that's what everybody wants. Who would have imagined a company which was into reviewing restaurants? That's how they started, moved into food delivery, and today we all know where Zomato and Swiggy are. So, you know, the idea as a bank, what we believe is, you know, rather, of course, we are a bank, so, you know, we would be giving you everything that is required that a bank does. But why not partner with you and become your business partner? The whole idea behind, you know, setting up the startup or the new age economy team was this. The idea is to sit with founders. Banking ho jayegi. Banking, there's no rocket science. FDs, current accounts, they're all the same. There's no difference between an FD in one bank, FD in another bank. Only difference is 10 paisa here, 10 paisa there. But why not sit with you, help you grow your business? So that's what we do. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. I think it also helps as for a bank to build that long-term relationship, and in future you might become that go-to banker, because during the initial days or the struggling days for the MSME, as you said, you're speaking about the value-added services, how you're thinking of reducing the cost for just MSMEs. So it builds you to, you know, helps you build that long-term relationship as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. See, you know, IDFC, if I just take a couple of minutes, if I talk about the history, IDFC was started by Mr. Vaidyanathan, right? He was on the board of ICICI when he decided to put down his papers and start his own venture. So he has been through it. He knows the struggles one faces to get their first investment. The moment first investment comes, if they leave, what happens next? How do I write back the check to the first investor? How do I get another investor on board? So he's been through this journey. So hence, you know, the whole support system is there. So that's why the whole program was made.
Thanks, Suprateek. My next question is for Hitesh. Hi. So Hitesh, my question to you is on, you know, as a bank, you've backed multiple startups with, you know, startups like Open and Refine, which has a strong focus on various technologies, payments, API banking, AI. How can MSMEs prepare to tap into these emerging financial technologies to accelerate growth?
A very relevant question. So, at ICICI Bank, we always believed in technology as the force multiplier for all our businesses, and innovation is at the core of our strategy. So, we started looking at the entire MSME segment, and we figured out what are the various problems which MSMEs are facing and how do we solve those problems using technology. So, you know, one of the important aspect to invest into Open was that when we looked at the problems, like when we're talking to MSMEs, one of the problem was that we are having banking as a separate thing, accounting is a separate, and there is a lot of recon issues which we face. Second was that a lot of businesses were going digital. How do we as MSMEs also tap into digital ecosystem, sell our products online, create our own websites, you know, collect payment through payment gateways, also marketing online. So a lot of these problems where, you know, we thought where Open was actually combining all these problem statements and providing one single window solution. And that's where we thought that how do we make banking embedded into the Opens platform, and that's where API banking comes into play. So for us, partnership is way of life, and for ensuring that partnership works well, once the commercials are done, the second biggest block, or roadblock is integration. So that's where we developed an API portal, and we are hosting more than 250 plus APIs on our API portal, which all the startups can actually consume it, toggle around it, create products around it. And that's where Open started consuming our APIs embedded into their platform, where this is a single platform where you do banking, you do accounting, everything happens with one single entry. You don't have to do multiple things. So that's what made life easier for all the MSMEs. The other aspect was when you deal with a particular platform and there is a history which gets built on top of it, then you have a lot of data sets which one can use for lending. So a lot of MSMEs which were not getting lending earlier, now there is a data set available on their cash flow. So one is doing lending basis your P&L and balance sheet, and we all know how profit and loss account and balance sheets are made, right? It's always the other way around, where you ask a chartered accountant, or chartered accountant will ask you, or your tax consultant will ask you that how much tax you want to pay, and basis that the balance sheets are drawn, right? And many times you keep relying on those balance sheets and do your lending. But rather than that, if you build an alternate data model and do it on a cash flow basis, I think that's a more realistic way of doing lending. And that's what Open also enabled, right? Where a lot of these data sets about the sales transactions of the MSMEs, the collections of MSMEs, if they have a visibility on those data points, you can actually create a model of lending it in a better way, which is cash flow based lending. So that will also combine lending also alongside other aspects. So I think in totality, the way we looked at it is, you also spoke about Insta-based, right? Our idea is to ensure that we create an ecosystem for MSMEs where whatever problem statements they are facing, how can we solve each of these problem statements, and those solutions are made available to them in a very seamless manner. They don't have to struggle for embedding accounting platform, recon solutions, everything. If it is available in one single platform, that makes their life easier, and that's what we are striving to do. And early on, we had really positive feedback from a lot of our MSME customers, and that's where the journey started, and we kept improving on it. And now it is being used by wider set of MSMEs, who are availing these services to these platforms.
Great, thanks, Hitesh. So I think if I have to, you mentioned about flow-based lending, and in one of the earlier panels, one of the panelists was mentioning that as a MSME they have to accept QR-based payments, right? So I think yes, that's where probably the dots are getting joined, where payments data is acting as an alternate data for an underwriter to underwrite more effectively or more efficiently. Yeah, thanks, Hitesh. So next question, Mr. Raman, for you. You have advocated strongly for a dedicated refinance window via SIDBI, NABARD and TDS exemption for NBFCs to enhance MSME lending. How soon can MSMEs expect tangible impact from these reforms?
Thank you for having me. So at the outset, let's understand that today, if you look at the RBI data or the data presented by SIDBI at various points of time, it is the NBFCs who've taken lead in funding MSMEs. And in fact, RBI data says the growth rate of MSME lending by NBFCs is 3 times more than that for banks. And today, NBFC stands at the position that we are the 3rd largest in the world, primarily focusing on what we call the unbanked or the underbanked. Now, why I say this is to lay ground to answer your question. Because at the end of the day, we are also intermediaries. And today, if you look at the borrowing profile of NBFCs, it's a very significant chunk which that comes from banks, right? Now, NBFCs, if you look at the numbers, which it's a very scary figure of 9,100, but out of that, 8,500 or 8,400 something lies in what RBI classifies as base layer. So that means a majority chunk are small and mid-sized NBFCs themselves. Now, they are largely, they cannot access capital markets, they cannot access foreign borrowing, so their only and only source of funding remains banks. Or some of them are now resorted to that, okay, the larger NBFCs have started funding small NBFCs. All these adds another layer of intermediation, which ultimately raises the borrowing cost, and that manifests in the ultimate lending rates, which tend to be then become higher. That's one side.
Regulator increasing risk weights as well.
That's one side. Secondly, in fact, before RBI voiced its concern, I remember Mr. Das having voiced this concern sometime 2 years back about over-dependence of NBFCs on banks. What if I tell you that I have myself been attending pre-budget meetings for the last 13 years, and last 10 years at least, if you pick up our pre-budget memorandum, the same story is repeated. We said, please let us not be made dependent on banks. Because, see, and the classic example in case was ILFS fiasco. One NBFC going down, and I don't blame banks. See, after all, they are also commercial entities out here to make profits. So, one company going down, the sentiment all of a sudden becomes bad. And we had instances, without naming the company, what if I tell you that even AAA rated NBFCs, overnights the unutilized limits were withdrawn. So, without doing anything wrong, you are suddenly, because somebody down at the back has pulled the plug. So, the moment you leave us at the, pardon me for saying this, at the mercy of banks, you are creating a huge instability in the system. So, what we are saying here is basically to diversify the source of funding. And to do that, there is a case here for government to have a direct handle. We do not have any lender of the last resort. We do not have any repo mechanism available with us. So, if whatever funding is, whatever fund allocation is earmarked every year for MSMEs, some carve out can be left dedicatedly for agencies like, why I say SIDBI, because SIDBI currently on one side is created for MSMEs. On the other hand, SIDBI today is anyway also refinancing NBFCs out of its own funds. So, if we can give that fund allocation to SIDBI exclusively for financing NBFCs, it will do a world of good for all stakeholders. So, that's the reason why we asked for a refinance window. That's number one. Second, you talked about TDS. Now, TDS is something which is actually mind-boggling. I mean, I fail to understand, and let me tell you, in the last 10 years, I have not received any logical reason from the department for not having done this. Now, imagine a scenario, any non-individual borrower, a poor small-time businessman, a partnership firm, borrows from a bank and borrows from an NBFC, every EMI he pays to NBFC, he has to deduct TDS, but not for a bank. Data shows that only we compile data for 10 NBFCs. For 10 NBFCs, there were more than 3.5 lakhs of borrowers who were deducting TDS. What are we serving here? What are we trying to achieve here? We are absolutely on one hand putting huge compliance burden on the MSMEs to deduct TDS, pay that, deposit that TDS, quote the right PAN, refile the returns. What are we achieving? Nothing. Because to say that if somebody can escape the tax net, I think we are living, and then we are living in a stone age. Today it is just not possible. Today here you were talking about cash flow lending. We talk about GST based lending. GST now is an account aggregator. Anybody can go and pull out the data. Where is the case for any tax leakage? So this again has a multiple effect. It impacts the poor SMEs, the small time businesses on compliances. For us, it's a huge nightmare. Now imagine a large NBFC like the Mahindras or the Tatas having lakhs and lakhs of borrowers, and every EMI there is a TDS being deducted. Look at the voluminous work we are creating and achieving what? Nothing. It goes against ease of doing business. It is unnecessarily creating compliance burdens. And you know what? I sit on the board of a company which is listed, and there is a huge amount becoming NPS because of unclaimed credit. Because the borrower when he deposited TZ, he quoted a wrong PAN, वो credit ही नहीं मिलता. Then what do you do? So it's a absolutely not required, avoidable irritant created in the system that needs to go away. And when, and I should give credit, let me share openly here, Secretary to DFS, Department of Financial Services, specifically called a meeting. He called the revenue guys, and I will quote him here. I mean, I don't mind saying, he said, जिस reason से आपने banks को exempt किया है, उसी reason से you need to look at the NBFCs. Just because I am wearing an NBFC hat, no, that doesn't serve the purpose. So it's not only for our own benefits, it's ultimately for the ultimate borrowers. We are not achieving, in fact, unnecessarily we talk of ease of doing business. Where is the ease? We are creating this avoidable bottlenecks in the system. So these are the two you asked about the issues, and that's why we have been asking for that.
Thanks, Raman. I think that's an interesting lens to look at. We talk about challenges for MSMEs, how to upskill them, how to look for financing for them, how to enable them for partnerships. But how to enable the enablers is an.
I'll also share. I spent 2 hours at North Block one day, and even trying to just tell them. I said, boss, what is your concern? Revenue leakage hoga? आपको ये concern है? We are ready to give you the list. Anyway, this AIS and everything systems you have, anyway you want, we will give you a quarterly list of such borrowers whose TDS was supposedly to be deducted, but since there is an exemption, we are not deducted. So you have that data with you, we'll give you the PAN, and you track it. But still, no answer, no logic.
Okay, thank you so much. Next question for Utkarsh. Under your leadership, DG Shastra has digitally trained 4,76,000 plus MSMEs with many reporting sales growth of 20 to 30%. What next level digital competencies must MSMEs build to go from basic digitization to full scale digital transformation?
Firstly, thank you BW for this opportunity, and thank you Prithwish for this question. Over the years, or over the past year, we've been thinking that MSMEs were literally lagging on understanding how digital transformation actually works. And what we saw was understanding the product or the tool is something that is necessary for them, right? And that is the reason we built this platform for them, where they can understand and be trained upon these tools simultaneously and work upon at the same point of time, and again implement it as well. Through which we saw, yes, you're true. That's true that we trained almost around 4,76,000 MSMEs, and yes, again there is a growth in sale for 20-30% of them. But the reality still stands that only 10% of the MSMEs were actually transformed. And that is something that we need to work on. And which is why, when I consult MSMEs, when I talk to MSMEs, there are 4 pillars which I ask them to work on. 4 pillars which are related only digitally. First pillar is to do with, integrated digital solutions, which are already there available for you. We are using WhatsApp today for orders, we are using Excel for inventory, we are using UPI for payments, and so much more. But the ground reality is, are these apps talking to each other? How is the communication happening? This is all manual force which you're putting in. And that is one lag that we feel that MSMEs do not understand, that increasing the workforce may not reduce your working capital, right? So use integrated solutions, and where that would help you actually reduce the capital that you're investing in the working force. I mean, not saying that, definitely that would actually pay out to your production as well, where your production would increase, right? So you can actually save that money to increase your production. Second parameter, how many of us use social media over here? No, I'm just being sure of it. Okay. If everybody does, I have a few questions for you. How many of us are actually doing performance analysis? Does anyone in their businesses? You do? Great. There's only one hand up, which is extremely worrying. Okay. The next one would be, how many of us are doing targeting marketing? Very good. That's the only hand which is up actually. Okay. How many of us are doing retargeting marketing? That's the only hand up. Okay, one more over here. Okay, that's good. But how many of us are doing marketplace optimization? Okay, that's the only hand up, which is why it is worrying, right? Because for the MSMEs, it is very much important to know who you are targeting, right? अगर मैं एक MSME हूँ आज, मैं ये सोचूंगा कि मेरे जो present consumers है, मैं उनको वापस कैसे जाऊँ? Because I want to increase my sale, right? So these guys are already there with me. They are saying, I like your product. I like everything that you're giving me. Why don't you give me an offer back and I'll probably take your product again? Rather, what we are doing is creating new posts, which is the matter and the fact that we are just spending the wrong money and the wrong place. Instead, we should do retargeting, right? Because that will help you increase your sales. And I can give you a fair example as well. My sister itself, she's into business. She's into tea selling. And she only started retargeting with her present consumers. She actually got an increase of 30% in her conversions in the first 6 months itself. That is something that you should be doing as an MSME. Third and most critical point actually in this pillar or these 4 pillars is digital financing that the banks do very well. But then what is the discipline that you need to maintain? Because I agree, Suprateek said that there are compliances that come in harsh and you have to keep on seeing all of these compliances, and then you get irritated by what the MSMEs have been presenting. Which is why knowing what you're spending, earning, whatever you owe to or whoever you owe to, everything need to be recorded day to day then at the end of the month. Because that will help you be bank ready, that will help you be investor ready, that will help you be GST ready, and these things like investors will be readily available for you over there. So that training needs to be done efficiently, right? So that they understand how these digital tools are to be used. Fourth and foremost, and I would leave up to the audience if you can guess what is the fourth pillar. It's very easy. Anyone? No? Okay. How many of us are using all of these apps in day-to-day lives? All of the apps, social apps or any apps. All of us? Cyber security, have you heard of it? Okay. So if MSMEs are scaling digitally, cyber security is the next most important thing that you need to be aware about. And for that reason, whether you're, everybody knows about the frauds which are happening, and everybody knows about whatever payment frauds that are happening. Banks know, and they're actually basically talking about this, educating all of these MSMEs. But then still, we only see them on Instagram, give it a like and say, okay, we will keep in mind. But are we securing ourselves? No. Instead, the new and the ultimate high competency that we have is the new data and the AI-driven force. Are we utilizing that as well? Because if you do that, you can be ready for the next. How? Because if you know your demand patterns, if you know your customer behavior, you know where to spend. Again, you know how to use AI for doing your plan in production as well. What is your next in step, right? So these things need to be kept in mind. And so I say that, technology, the transition of technology is actually dependent on what you want to give, right? So it should always be like whenever you're using a technology, the MSME needs to be, producing better, selling faster or selling smarter and scaling faster. And that is when an MSME is basically, digitally transformed. And so with this, ending my topic as well over here is, I would want to say that, India SME Forum as an organization has taken that step and has signed an MOU with Meta and the Ministry of MSME in coming up with an AI chatbot only for MSMEs, for guiding them in each of the parameters, like all the schemes which are readily available, whatever digital adoption is to be done, and also and this is available in all languages and in all the platforms that you're already using. Okay? So this is available, you just need to be aware about it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We, I think, have another 5 to 6 minutes time. So, Suprateek, you talked about cost optimization, how you're doing for MSMEs, right? In terms of maybe waiving off certain requirements as per, of course, the laws of the land, or waiving off certain fees for them. So, from that perspective, what do you think from an MSME standpoint, that what are those inefficiencies, one or two inefficiencies you can say, which you believe that if MSME is proactive in that, which can help them attract funding, or for be it from investors or from lenders? What do you think, which they can be more cost efficient rather than you as a lender doing that?
Okay, so inefficiencies can be of various types. The biggest and the foremost problem is, even though demonetization has happened, people still are on cash. A lot of companies are on cash. The moment you're on cash, if it's not recorded, it's as good as zero. The moment you come to me, if I look at your books and you say, I have 1 crore of cash income, it holds no value. This happens in majority of the MSMEs. This is something that needs to be taken into consideration. We have those, certain consultants who would tell you, आप ऐसे tax बचा लो. Tax देना अच्छा है. I'm not saying keep on giving tax. I'm not a big, a follower of, but be logical. If you don't show your sales correctly, no bank will come, no investor will come. The only way to grow a business is capital. If you are not showing your money, you will not be getting that capital. So that's, I believe, is probably the biggest issue in MSMEs.
Thanks. Hitesh, you are coming across, you're obviously interacting with startups day to day. What do you think, as a banker, you have encountered one or two, compliance or governance gaps which MSMEs should look out for, or, try to build it so that, there are no such gaps before they approach a bank like you?
So largely, it's about the mindset. When you are getting ready for getting an institutional capital, I think the most important aspect is the change in mindset. So most of the time you see promoters running one-man show company. While as you grow and as you scale, you need to build a team and you need to ensure that there are people underneath you who would be available to take over even if in your absence. Second bottleneck we find is that most of the time people think that you juggle with a lot of problems. You have to build product, you have to build systems, you need to do sales. In all this, problems, the compliance takes a back seat. So for us, I think we advise entrepreneurs that compliance has to be built from day one. It should be like compliance as part of the culture. Once you decide that I will first build the business, let it grow, and then we'll figure out how to build compliance and governance, I think that doesn't work, right? So we believe that mindset is super important, that you build compliance as the part of the culture. The other thing is, you need to put right structure, right? For example, MSME raising capital, people would want it to be in the form of private limited company. So anybody is running an LLP or partnership, it will be difficult to get institutional capital. So you have to put right structure, your documentation around it, whether it's a memorandum of association or other documents, need to enable this kind of fundraise from institutional investor. The other aspect is also how transparent you are, how accountable you are. When an investor comes in, they will ask you questions, they will give you ideas, right? How open you are, how ready you are, willing to accept somebody questioning you. That is also important. And then someone who thinks of scale, right? Investors like promoters who build scale, who build large businesses. So it's not about building just niche. Up chota kaam karke, you can be a good entrepreneur, but it's not about building that small thing. It should be like you have to create something big and something beautiful. So big and beautiful, right? It's not about small and beautiful. So that's what investors prefer. And the last aspect is about, be reasonable when you are taking capital. Unreasonable valuation expectations also puts a lot of burden on the entrepreneur itself. You have to deliver those kind of, because every investor expects a huge or at least a decent return. So it puts more burden on you if you do it, raise capital on unreasonable valuations. And then the last point is about exit in mind. At some point in time, investors would like to exit. So when you are bringing them in, think about that some point in time you have to also provide them exit and create that plan in your mind. So when investors also ask you questions, if you have thought well thought about it in terms of how you will grow and how you will also enable exit for investors, that becomes important aspect of investment. So there are the few things one needs to keep in mind while raising institutional capital.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Hitesh. Raman, you, of course, you spoke about how to enable the enablers. Like, suppose we take care of that problem, right? NBFCs are also able to lend, as like the banks, right? They're on the same page we are. So, what from a MSME standpoint, again, what do you think what are those one or two pointers which MSMEs need to have built so that today, be it a bank or NBFC, they can lend?
Yeah. See, and to my surprise also, because this is coming again from my personal real-time experiences. For some strange reasons, I find a great lack of awareness among people amongst the various incentive schemes being offered by the government. I mean, I've come across highly educated people, pardon me saying that, running businesses, they are not even aware of that something called credit guarantee exists in this world. They are still living in that era कि loan लेना है तो collateral देना पड़ेगा और वो सब करना पड़ेगा. So, and that ultimately, it is all interlinked. The point which he raised about cash. And the larger point I will bring about here is the financial literacy. That is, I think, the key word. Because the moment you make them aware, tell them, boss, these are the various things available. Now, if suppose somebody knows there is a guarantee available to that kind of a loan and I don't need a collateral, I think even the point which he raised would also get addressed. So it is that lack of awareness and overall lack of financial literacy which needs to be taken care of.
Thank you. Thank you. So,
yes, all of us have to play a role. I mean, including the lenders.
Yes, of course. Definitely. It's the role of the entire ecosystem. Yes. So, Utkarsh, just quick question before we wind up is that you spoke about AI, about the program of the government for MSMEs. So, he spoke about awareness, right? So, how do you make the MSME ecosystem or the MSME segment aware of such initiatives? How do they kind of, build tech into their, it should be their habit, right, of using tech rather than them being pushed to use tech or them being pushed to use AI, various AI tools for their own benefits. How do you think, it can?
I mean, it's very simple here. I mean, if you're an MSME, you're in need of that education. When you're in school, you're being taught by the teachers, right? Why? Because you don't know something that would be there in the future with you, but you need to be educated for it right now. And if you do not know about AI today, how efficiently you can use it and effectively it can give you back, then you're lagging. Boss, you're lagging way back towards your traditional footsteps itself. And you're not working on the new generation and you will never succeed. And I can write it. But even if you're walking with the parallel universe which is working which is right around you, you will still get something back. So learn from the people who you know. There might be in the group itself. I'm not saying us as IDFC Forum, definitely you can reach us any time. But then anyone who's getting success tomorrow or he's in your group, please learn from him. How do you actually scale your business? What tools is he using? Even Blue Tea, for an example, I'm taking his name, I'm sorry, but he'll probably call me and ask me why. But then he learnt it from someone else, right? So that is something that is necessary. At least, communicate in your own group and learn from them at least, if not us.
That's a great point, I think. And which is happening probably for banking at the grassroots level, like we have the self-help groups who are teaching each other, or kind of giving that lesson that how they're using certain banking, how they have been able, such so and so lender have been able to solve their banking need. So yes, that's right. I mean, peer-to-peer learning is very important. Thank you.